Hoggy, I respect you, but do that again and I will kill you.
Classic.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of RugbyPass Offload with me, Christina Mahan. And today I'm joined by Ryan Wilson and Jamie Roberts to chat about another incredible weekend of Six Nations rugby. How is it going, guys?
Very, very well. What a wonderful weekend of rugby, eh?
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased. I'm probably happier than Ryan as we come into this week's podcast after the weekend.
Yeah, I think you will be. Although I think we were robbed, but yeah.
Here we are. We'll get into that.
We're going straight into it.
Yeah, let's take a minute and we'll get into it. We will start with Scotland v Wales, the clash between your nations, guys. So it was a very exciting match, which resulted in another win for the Welsh after Scotland had to play with 14 men for a large amount of the game. So Ryan, before you suffered the red card, how did you think the boys were shaping up in comparison to the incredible display the week previously at Twickenham?
I'd say probably didn't play as well as they did the week before, but they were in control at half-time, weren't they? 17-8 going into the half-time break. I could just see them controlling the game, coming out and having another good second-half performance. But I reckon around 50 minutes after what happened first, you boys scored a try first on 50 minutes, then the red card. It just sort of snowballed from there. I mean, there was a terrible 5 minutes and everything sort of fell apart from there onwards. I know Hoggy got that try back, but it just like we just killed ourselves in the second half. I think it was something stupid like 16 penalties, which in an international match, you give away 16 penalties, you're not going to come away with a win, are you? So, yeah, frustrating one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll echo all of that. Two critical moments for me in that game. One, I think Wales had a line out in their own half, probably on their own 10-metre line, 5 minutes before half-time. And you guys gave away a penalty, which gave Wales a field position, penalty again, and then they penalty advantage, went out the back, scored in the far corner just before half-time. And that was massive, absolutely massive turning point in the game. You talk about discipline. I think it was your number 8 who came in the side of that maul, didn't need to, and just gave Wales the field position to launch that attack. And then the second biggest turning point for me is when Scotland should have scored under the sticks and he got done for crossing just after half-time. And, you score a try there. I think the game's dead and buried. But one thing about this Welsh team is that they will stay in test matches till the death. They will stay in test matches till 80 minutes. It was certainly a feature under Warren Gatland, really resilient sides that have a real big arm wrestle. And Six Nations rugby is an arm wrestle. It comes down to a lot of these games are coming down to one-score games, which is very exciting for the tournament. But it's a feature that's continued under Wayne Pivac. Teams, they're going to be in test matches till the end of the game. And, that red card compounded your errors and, Wales took their chances. And, young Louis Rees-Zammit's got a fantastic individual try.
Well, Jamie, just on him, I suppose he's been a bit of a standout player of the tournament so far. He's scored 2 tries and he set up the other. Has he already maybe played his way into your starting lines 15?
Yeah, I'm not sure about starting lines 15. He's a young kid. It doesn't surprise me that he's performing at the level he is in Test rugby. The guy has been scoring tries for fun in the Premiership, which is, I think, across world rugby, one of the most competitive leagues there is. And, he's playing in a good Gloucester side. He's scoring some brilliant tries. So it doesn't surprise me one bit to see him operating the level he is for Wales. But he's taken to Test rugby so well. I think that's what's, often it takes 5, 10, 15 appearances to kind of settle in, especially at that age in Test rugby. But he just it looks like he has this feel for Test rugby that's basically above his age, kind of to think he's only 20 years old is amazing. And, he's been fantastic in the first 2 games. I think his biggest tests are to come, against England, which he'll no doubt start. I think his place in the team now is, he's undroppable after his first two appearances, which has, big ramifications for Welsh backline selection, which we'll get to. But, I just love seeing a young guy who has pace to burn, just enjoying his rugby. And the guy is so quick. Geez, 0 to 10 metres. We saw his try in the opening game against Ireland. You give him the ball standing still in space. The guy has frightening pace and, you can't defend against that, especially at Test rugby.
He is bloody quick. The way he burns Van der Merwe, he kicks that ball. And Van der Merwe, for a big guy, is bloody quick. Absolutely burns him. Van der Merwe gives up. And then Hoggy's trying to catch him. And he even just cruises past Hoggy. Just unbelievable pace, eh? And that's what.
And he doesn't look like he's running quick, mate. He's just gliding.
It is crazy. So I love seeing players like that. I love the difference in players as well, like what you can have in rugby. That one position of wing, pretty much every other position is pretty much a bog standard shape and size. The amount of the sizes we've seen with wingers, because I still love the the Joan Lomu-esque Tangeli Nayavoru, big massive mutants wingers coming in and bowling people. But then you put someone like him out there. Oh, speed kills, man. Speed kills.
Yeah, it's brutal. Do you reckon he beat us in a foot race, mate?
100%. I can answer that for the two of you.
All right. So if you got an interception and you were on halfway and you had half a pitch to run it in, and Louis Rees-Zammit was starting on the 22, so tracking you down, you reckon he'd score?
Yeah, I'm making it. I'm quick.
That would be my worst nightmare.
I would.
That'd be my worst nightmare. I'm cruising in from 50 and you got Rees-Zammit hunting you down. Like,
feel the hammies after 5 meters. Just going.
Exactly.
He's impressive, man.
Right. So over the course of the Six Nations, in partnership with the all-new Isuzu D-Max, our panel will pick a player each week who is the unsung hero of the round. So someone who was, who went about their work under the radar, they put in a real shift and was the key to their team's success. So this week, our fans have voted for Stuart Hogg as their Isuzu Unsung Hero of the second round. But Ryan, who caught your eye and why?
I'm going to go for Ali Price. I'm going to say Ali Price for me. Him and Finn Russell, probably best mates in there, and they just connect so well. But also looking at Darcy Graham coming in with that little try, Pricey's awareness, just his kicking game, his running game, the speed of ball. Scotland need a 9 that plays at that pace, and he gave Scotland that at the right times. So yeah, Ali Price for me.
His kicking game is awesome. I remember probably the most impressive Ali Price has been is when Scotland played Wales in the Autumn Nations Cup last year down in Cardiff, and they beat Cardiff for the first time in a long time. It was the rescheduled Six Nations 2020 game.
Yeah,
and just his control, his kicking game and his control is world class. Like he spots space in the backfield, and his execution to get the ball there is awesome. So that's not a bad shout. I'm going to go for, he actually got man of the match for France, so he's not quite unsung, but Brice Dulin for France. Just a guy, I actually played with Brice at Racing when I was there, and he was, I guess, in and around the national squad for quite a few years. He fell out of favour under the previous regime, didn't play too much test rugby, but under Fabien Galtier and Sean Edwards, I mean, the guy is taking his game to another level. Just so small, but so dominant, both in the air, his footwork, his game awareness, when to kick, pass, run. Just a guy who's, kind of tinkered there on international rugby, and then this year just gone another level. And he's arguably been France's outstanding player in the opening 2 rounds. So, I think if France are going to get a Grand Slam or certainly compete for one, he's a key cog in their machine for me.
Fair enough. Well, good choices. And thanks to Isuzu for their support. So don't forget to head to isuzu.co.uk to be the first to test drive the all-new, smarter, stronger and safer Isuzu D-Max. So guys, we'll move on to England, who bet Italy 41-18 to get back to their winning ways. They looked more adventurous than last week, but still made tons of enforced errors and looked a little bit sloppy. So how did you see it, guys?
I'm just
That's playing against Italy, though. That is against Italy, isn't it? You always...
Yeah.
You tell me the last test side that completely put Italy to bed with a really clinical, error-free performance. I don't think I certainly never experienced that. I came close to games where at 70 minutes you're losing against Italy.
Always a ropey start, isn't it? And it was against England as well. It was a bit, you looked at him and like, oh, here we go. Are they going to,
It's very competitive, for certainly first half. The ball difference wasn't that big. And, you have to give credit to Italy for that. There's lots of talks about Italy, whether they are, offer enough value in the Six Nations. But, very rarely do you see a kind of uber clinical, error-free performance against Italy. And that's, have to give credit to Italy for that, for kind of spoiling opposition and the way they want to play the game. But I just it worries me that England are just building. They're building slowly. You know, they had a poor start, but that's kind of kicked everyone into action. And, you know, my worry is that they come good in the next game against Wales. But yeah, I still think they're trying to work out the way they want to play the game. Let's bear in mind, Eddie's picking 4 or 5 players who have not played for months. That is arguably forming the spine of their team. When you look at Farrell, Vunipola, Daly, I know Jamie George was on the bench the last game, but starting in Scotland. These guys haven't played top competitive rugby for months. And to expect them to just drop into Test rugby, Ryan, geez, look, how you can expect them to just waltz into Test rugby and just perform at a level which is far above club rugby. I just don't know how he's expecting them to get to that level, you know.
Big Bill played against the Elite Trailfinders, mate. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, competitive match that one in front of 10,000.
Exactly. No, as if I said it last week, didn't I? I said the frustrating thing is England were terrible against Scotland, but they'll all it'll be blown over when they play Italy because they'll go out there and beat Italy comfortably, which they did. But there's still people going out there saying, well, they haven't played well, so what they're going to do. Hopefully for you boys, they just go with the same team and you boys stick it on them. That's what I'd love to see. But yeah, Italy are really frustrating to watch. You know, you always get that hope. Every time I watch at the beginning, I'm like, oh, here we go. I thought a player that's really stepped up for Italy is it's Monty Ioane.
Yeah,
the winger. I think he's been really good. He plays at Treviso. Another guy
who his cousin.
He is, yeah. I think he's his cousin, yeah. Another guy I can't stand playing against. So mouthy on the pitch for Treviso.
Who's mouthy?
Sorry?
Who did you say was mouthy?
Monty Ioane, the winger, the one with the tattoos all up his neck. He gives it some. But to be fair to him, he's done well in that Italian team, and he's someone that's going to be big for them going forward, I think.
Absolutely. Well, in the English game, I suppose Owen Farrell was caught in several controversial moments. So he had a late tackle that went unpunished. He was also chirping a lot of the referee. And he also had a poor game with his handling and decision-making. And Matt Dawson has come out this week and he's demanded that Owen has be dropped from the matchday squad altogether, as he thinks that he's holding England back. What did you make of his performance, Ryan?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty poor. Again, you know, defensively, just like Jamie said, he looks a bit rusty, doesn't he? It looks like he's not played much rugby and, you know, certainly no international footy, which is another level up. So I think he looks rusty. So, but again, he'll be thrown out next week, given another chance, and he's then got 3 international games under his belt. He'll be back to where he is. So these calls for dropping people like that, he's their captain. I think they depend on him a hell of a lot, especially his kicking, goal kicking as well. So I think you'll see him back out there. I don't think he'll be dropped, but yeah, he definitely looks rusty to me.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, isn't it? I can understand Matt Dawson's comments, but it all depends how England want to play the game. And if they're this kind of forward orientated, kick to compete, bully the advantage line, win penalties, kick to the corner, drive a more sort of team, rather than go and jouer and chuck it about, Owen Farrell's your man, because, you know, the guy has won so much in his career being that controller at 10, you know, when to kick, when to play. He understands the game probably like no other 10. He's operated in a Saracens team that have won countless trophies by working that way. If England want to expand their game, obviously they shift Faz to 12. But I think the fact that they won't drop him says more of the competition and who's actually pushing him at 10 or 12. Who's actually going to come into that team and play better than Owen Farrell? I don't think anyone is. And so that's why Eddie will keep picking him and why he is skipper. I think it says more about, you know, who's fighting for that jersey. I don't know, Ryan, if off the top of your head, if you make any of the suggestions, you know, if you're playing Ford and Farrell, if you're playing Farrell at 10, who comes in? Who's going to perform better?
Would have been Cam Redpath for me, but we've nicked him.
You've nicked him. You've stolen him.
I would have had him in there at 12 for England. I don't know. Who was it that started 12 against us? He didn't
Ollie Lawrence.
And he didn't touch the ball for something like 60 minutes or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But then, you know, if you're going to play Ollie Lawrence at 12, you have to, you know, find ways of getting him into the game. first scrum, first line out.
Yeah.
9-12, thank you very much. Let's bring out his strengths in the game. Let's use them off second phase, third phase, picking lines. But they just didn't do that. They didn't bring him into the game. So why pick a play like that, but not use his strengths? This is why I just feel they're a bit confused at the minute. They're a bit kind of lost with their selections. I haven't seen Billy Vunipola used first phase, second phase, third phase as effective as he can be. It kind of scares me. They've just held stuff back and are just waiting for the Wales game to get it all right. But yeah, it's just I can't quite work them out at the minute, and I don't think many people can. But I think on Farrell, you just cannot expect him to be operating at top quality test level. But he hasn't played. He hasn't played rugby for his club. He's going to be a yard off it in body and mind. And I think Eddie will hope that it's taken him 2 test matches to warm into it.
And Jamie, if you were playing against England, who would you not want to come up against in the 10-12 channel?
Who would I not want to? The steppers. I hate the steppers, man. The little guys with footwork.
Someone like Jonathan Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, JJ is tough to defend against. Obviously he's not in the squad. Slade, similar. A bit of footwork, strong fend. I guess the up and down kind of solid ball carrying types. As a big lad, I could deal with quite easily. But anyone with footwork, it's a challenge for us big lads, isn't it, Ryan?
Too right. You look at the way that France play with like Antomac at the weekend, taking it to the line, doing what Finn Russell does with that little chip over the top, Vakatawa coming onto it. England, you never see them really trying that sort of stuff. They try and stick to this bang the ball high or crossfields. I'd be interested in seeing them bring someone like Johnny May, Anthony Watson, again, someone I thought he was brilliant at the weekend when his footwork is unbelievable. And bring someone like that in, take it right to the line and just, drop the ball over the top of teams like France have been doing, like Finn does with some of the boys, Ali Price doing with Darcy Graham. England try that a little bit more, but they don't. It's like they've just stick to this one basic game plan, like a Saracens team. It's
industrial, it's pragmatic, it's risk averse,
boring.
But more often than not, it wins Test rugby games. This is the thing. Is it about playing? I say boring. It's not boring. Is it about playing efficiently and winning Test match rugby, or is it about playing with a bit of flair and risk losing? And I'm sure Eddie Jones is very much one for the former.
Yeah, it's still boring though. It definitely is boring. But I suppose, I think Dylan would argue to death there that it's just about getting the wins. So, right, well, we'll move on to France's incredible run. So France's incredible run continued as they successfully broke their voodoo in Ireland and recorded a 15-13 victory on Sunday. So it was the first time in a decade that Ireland started a Six Nations match without Sexton or Murray, which resulted in an inexperienced halfback pairing of Billy Burns and Jemison Gibson Park. How did you guys think they fared?
More importantly, Christina, are you crying?
Wasn't it brilliant to see Christina?
Oh, I think a lot of Irish supporters would kill me, but I just expected France to win. I still think the France are going to win the Grand Slam. So I thought it was, for the squad that went out there, I thought it was a great game, and the scoreline was quite close. But I mean,
it was a proper test match. Really competitive. 2 points in it. I think the France team of old would have conceded a penalty in that last 17 phases. I sent that in a message to Sean Edwards, who coached me for a long time, and the difference he has brought in France's discipline is so noticeable. The way they defend. There is no doubt to me. Say that again.
Except for tripping people over.
Yeah, well, exactly. Whether that was on purpose or not. Bernard's a very. I played with Bernard. He's very savvy player. The Murray and Sexton thing. I think Ireland have to move on, and I say move on. Are Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton going to be the starting halfbacks at World Cup 2023? And have they got a chance of winning it if they are? I say no. So when do you make the change? I know they're both fantastic players and both been brilliant for Ireland. And only Andy Farrell knows, how much longer those lads can play on. But again, Ireland, like England, have to work out how they want to play. If they want to play like Leinster with this really quick speed of ball, wing collisions. Everything is about speed of ball with Leinster. Whenever you play against them, you know, their 9 is literally standing by every ruck. He actually runs in front of ball carriers. He's there at the ruck before defenders are. And they get the ball away and they just play with pace. Now, if you're going to play that sort of game, you can't pick Conor Murray at 9. You know, Gibson Park has to play. Johnny Sexton, obviously in a successful Leinster side, has the ability to play that game, but isn't as much as a running threat as your Billy Burns sort of player. You know, John Cooney's another one for me who is a minor miracle how he's missing out on that Ireland, 9 selection debate. Top player for his club. It seems like he has all the attributes to thrive in Test rugby, just not really had the chance. So, you know, I think Ireland have to work out how they want to play first and foremost and pick players that are going to allow them to play that way.
How do you think that the two of the 9 and 10 combination fared though on Sunday?
I think it did well. I think it brought pace. You know, at times, you know, it's very different. When you're playing against Dupont and Jalibert, who are very, very good players, there are going to be times when you struggle. But, you know, Billy Burns, after his frustration in Cardiff, it was great to see him start again, and he will grow into that role. No doubt, and Gibson Park is a classy operator. We saw the difference in ruck speed when Ireland wanted to play with pace, but it takes time. These guys probably haven't started a handful of Test matches together, maybe none at all, and so again, you can't expect a 9-10 combination like that to just go out and win Test matches straight away for Ireland. Certainly control Test matches because they've stuck with, and I'll say that's because they have stuck with Sexton and Murray for so long, and haven't allowed a partnership like that to grow and develop. It's only now we're seeing that partnership given an opportunity.
Ryan, do you want to come in there?
Well, the way, like you said, the way they want to attack with that pace. They've just got to get rid of Conor Murray because he's your kicking 9. He's the one that just controls everything with the boot. But like you said, they're sort of stuck in two minds there. It was good to see Billy Burns go out there, frustrating again for him to get a head knock and go off, but. You'll see the more those two play together because they're at different clubs. 9 and 10 partnerships obviously massive. So the more they get game time together, I think those two will grow. And you just want Billy Burns to do well, don't you?
Oh, 100%. I'd actually love to see what you mentioned there, Jamie, is if they brought in John Cooney and then had John and Billy at the 9-10 combination, because they would do that in Ulster.
Yeah.
So that would be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I think it goes to show how good a player Antoine Dupont is, because he has the ability to control, but as a running threat, the guy is unbelievable. You know, his transfer of ball, his power in contact, his handoff ability, his pace, his support lines are all brilliant for a running 9, but also his rugby brain and the way he controls territory, the way he can control the pace of the game with his kicking game and kind of rugby nous is just immense. And we saw that again on the weekend. And the guy is special.
He's still got a bit of that old school French about him, where he's just throwing those ridiculous offloads. And they're sticking as well.
Exactly. He chucked a missed pass offload on the weekend. You know the try Charles Olivier scored in the corner?
Exactly.
See his miss, he went through, he's getting scragged, and he's actually chucked a missed pass off his left.
That's what I mean. That's what you want to see from a 9A, someone that can do that stuff, but then when asked to, kick, whereas you talk about Conor Murray, you just don't really see him doing that, do you?
So Scotland next up, isn't it, for France?
Yeah. Scotland, France next.
In Paris?
Are you nervous, Ryan?
They're calling it the biggest game of that weekend. So it is over in Paris, yeah. So
can Scotland win in Paris, mate?
I beg your pardon?
Can Scotland win in Paris?
Yeah, I think they can. I think anyone can win anywhere at the moment with no bloody fans. It's just Stade de France.
No home advantage, is there?
Yeah, one of my favourite places to ever go and play, but without fans, it is going to be nowhere near the same, nowhere near as intimidating. So yeah, Scotland will be looking at that one as another one to go over and beat them. It'll be interesting when all these fans come back, see what happens with all these big wins.
Last question on the French game. So Paul Willemse was incredibly impressive again for the French, and he's also quite the unit. Apparently he had to stop contact training at Grenoble because he was injuring people. So I want to know from you guys, who are the most intimidating players you've had to play against or train with? Did I get his name wrong?
Paul Willemse. No, you got it right. Well done.
I'm telling you, it's nothing to do with like him being strong and powerful, injuring people at training. Second rows are renowned for not being able to control their body parts in training and injure people. Like, they are the worst for it. The absolute worst. Like, you get those players in the squads that you're doing line-out stuff against, or even just a little tackling drill, and they're just complete idiots and end up
Elbows, knees, and hips, man.
Yeah, treading on your feet. Just, they can't control themselves because they're such big men. They just can't rein it in. So that's what's happening with him there. I don't think it's because he's been battering people in training. I think he's just
He's a
being
big
clumsy.
lad though, mate. Jeez, I mean, can you imagine him fired up in a contact session? Like, steer clear. There was a lad, I never played with him for Wales, Brent Cobain. I used to say about Brent Cobain that he was similar.
Brent Cobain.
That's a cool
Brent
name.
Cobain, second row, Aussie fella. I think he qualified on residency with Wales. But by all accounts, like, no one would go near him in a contact session because, again, elbows, knees, you catch one of them somewhere, risk of injury is significantly higher. So, no, you're right on the second rows, but it's only usually second rows who pop up in this conversation.
But in terms of people that we've played against, you're asking, Christina, that are tough guys. Like, I would say, I had to phone Hoggy earlier because there was a story which I'll come on to, but he reminded me of the time I played against the Ospreys, against Jerry Collins, and might have like accidentally cheap shot him, and he threw me around like a rag doll. Absolutely threw me about, and I had a scar around my neck for about a month afterwards from where he'd pulled my shirt so tight. I had this like purple line around my neck. He was a tough man to go up against, bloody hell.
Yeah, she's tough player. Very, very tough player, but, you know, wonderful guy off the field. Oh, God, off the top of my head, it's very difficult for me to make comment. We'll sit with Jerry Collins.
On someone that I've actually played with who's a frightening man. This is how I got onto that Jerry Collins thing, because Hoggy reminded me of that, because I said about what we were talking about. And I was trying to remember this story. We were on our way to a game somewhere abroad, and there was a hooker playing for us, a Georgian hooker, Shalva Mamukashvili, and this little bald Georgian, and we're on the bus heading to Edinburgh Airport because we're flying out of Edinburgh. And God knows why, Hoggy's lobbed this. We're sat at the back of the bus, and he's lobbed this, just a packet of peanuts, and it's dinked off the back of Shalva's head. And I swear to God, he's got up, turned around, given the Georgian death stare, fired this pack of peanuts at 100 miles an hour at Hoggy's head, and then just sat back down. And I swear to God, I've never seen a man brick it so much. Like a naughty schoolboy at the back. Hoggy sat there just looking around, and everyone was laughing at first. And the bus just went deadly silent. And everyone's like, oh, shit. All the way to Edinburgh, get there, get off the bus. Shalva's gone, I'll try my best Georgian accent. It sounds like Dracula, but Hoggy, I respect you. No, that's South African.
Go through your ranges there.
Hold on. Hoggy, I respect you, but do that again and I will kill you.
Classic.
Then he says Hoggy shattered the whole trip, wouldn't go near him. And it wasn't until the end of season and Shalva sat in the corner, end of season do, just typical Georgian, sat with a glass of ice and the bottle of vodka. And Hoggy's like, this is it. This is the night he's going to kill me.
It's my last night on the earth.
One of the scariest men I've played with. So yeah, I'd say Shalva.
Did you, mate, at Glasgow, how long have you played at Glasgow?
12 years now.
Okay, so you would have been around. You signed a back rower from the States. Is it Langy?
Langy Hapakui.
Yeah, okay, right. So this lad, we went the year before he signed for Glasgow. This is brilliant. I was at Harlequins at the time, and we went on a pre-season trip to San Francisco.
Yes.
Nice.
And we were in San Francisco, right? And it's near Palo Alto, which is Silicon Valley. Everyone's heard of Silicon Valley. One of the big tech companies founded in San Francisco, just outside. And we trained at this Palo Alto kind of 4G pitch, kind of Palo Alto RFC. And this is where Langy played, right? And he actually joined us for a training session. Obviously, it was a non-contact training session, but the bloke was going flat out.
Mutant of a man.
No, mutant of a player. Like, he's got these big tattoos, isn't he? With
It's actual gang tattoos, 850 or whatever it is, around his neck. Christina covered in gang tattoos, and where's the old grill? You know, the gold grill.
Yeah, gold teeth,
proper
right?
out of a movie.
Yeah, and he joined us for a day training, and one of the funniest things I've seen, obviously, like on the bus with Quins, the lads who usually sit in the back. You'd have Adam Jones, my bomb, he was still playing at the time, Joe Marler. You know, they'd always assume kind of back seats on the bus, right? And one day we walked out of our hotel, and the lads go on the bus, and Langy is sat in the back seat on the bus on his own, right, with his headphones on. Like he'd never, you know, the lads had only met the bloke a day or two, and he'd assumed back seat on the bus. And it was just so funny. I saw Marla and Adam Jones walk on the bus and kind of look at him and just go, all right then, and just sat the next seat forward. Like they didn't challenge the bloke, they didn't leave him be. And then the next word, I heard he signed for Glasgow.
Yeah. And
he got a red card in his first game, am I right?
Yeah, red carded, and then went to throttle the bloke as he came over towards him. We were like hanging off him, Langy, no, don't do it. Second game, yellow card, then another yellow card and got red carded, I think. This guy was a loose cannon. I remember when he lost his grill in Sanctuary nightclub. We couldn't go back there. But yeah, you're right. He was a scary man. He was, but another one, lovely bloke when you got to know him. But my God, put a beer in him. Yeah, stay away from Langy. He was some unit. He was actually a Crip, I think.
No way.
Yeah. He was a Crip.
He never
used to
Langy, if you're listening, I hope you're keeping well, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, he's playing. He's signed for the Guiltinis over in LA.
In LA, is he?
Yeah. He's signed for the Guiltinis. So a few of the boys are saying they're going to go and meet up with him. But he's another one. Like I remember he used to text in the group, and he wouldn't put a C and a K next to each other. So when he'd write back, it'd always be a K. Loads of stuff. And I couldn't work out what was going on. I thought he just had terrible spelling, but because C and K together is Crip killer. So, and that's what the Bloods used. So he would never put C and a K together in a text. So that's how extreme he was. But yeah, what a lovely bloke. I've got some good stories about him we'll get on to. Jesus.
So there is some breaking news. France's head coach, Fabien Galtier, has tested positive for COVID-19 and will now isolate for 7 days, as well as another staff member who also tested positive. So both began isolating on Monday evening. Neither have had symptoms so far, which is obviously, I suppose, a good thing, I hope. But do you guys think that France losing their head coach for a week is going to have a huge impact on their preparation for the Scotland game?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see who his close contacts were as well. After you test positive, your close contacts have to go into 10 days isolation as well. So there's no doubt that some of his coaching staff and other players will have been close contacts as well. So how much can that team prepare for the match against Scotland? I think that Fallow week in the Six Nations couldn't have come at a better time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you fast forward 10 days, they're not going to be able to gather as a whole squad until Wednesday of test week for Scotland. So yes, that Fallow week couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to affect them. I think that 7 days from the game, I'm guessing. So, they will have tested 48 hours after the game. You do it, so they'll be all right. You can do everything via Zoom and all that stuff. The players will be all right. They ain't going to be fussed by it.
That video of the French players celebrating after the game, were the coaches in that? Was that this year? They were all jumping up and down. Did anybody else see that video?
No, I didn't see it.
Okay, I do wonder then if it was just a rehash from another game, because I was like, well, they were all pretty much on top of each other. So
yeah, it's fascinating. But most importantly, I hope they're all good health-wise, and fingers crossed they can get back to the Stade de France in 2 weeks' time.
They'll be all right. Don't worry.
They'll be fine. Okay, right. Well, we'll move on to the controversial topics from the weekend. So I'm going to start in Edinburgh on Saturday with Sander Ferguson's red card against Wales, which Hamish Watson said after the game was an awful call. So Ryan, how did you see it?
Hamish, you bad boy.
He's since apologised. He just said it was in the heat of the moment.
What a wimp going back out there and apologising on Twitter. He would have been told to do that. Nah, listen, heat of the moment, isn't it? Straight off the field, and they would have felt like they should have won that game and been frustrated. So that's why he said it. Listen, he's allowed to say what he wants after a game, but it is a red card at the end of the day. You know, if you're sticking to the laws, and these refs don't want to give it. You saw Wayne Barnes the week before with Omani not wanting to give that red card. You could tell he didn't want to, and I think the same. Matt Carley would have thought the same. You know, they never want to give these red cards. It affects the game massively, and it did for Scotland. But you've got to stick to the laws that are written down there. And yeah, it's just an unfortunate one. Shoulder to the head.
I just think when he's coming from that distance, there's just no room for error. You can't come from that distance. One, he didn't wrap. You know, yes, we see lots of wraps in rugby, and it's sometimes hard to wrap. But he's come up with the old kind of chicken wing arm from a distance and made contact with Wyn Jones's head with his head. It's basically a flying headbutt to his head. And again, I go back to my point from earlier. We saw so many of them in every rugby game across the country a few years ago. But World Rugby are keen to stamp out this sort of behaviour at the contact area because it causes injuries.
If there was someone jackling for the ball and their head was down and we caught the back of his head, I don't think there'd be a card. Because it normally isn't. You know, that happens all the time. You hit the back of someone's head when they're trying to jackal and you end up smacking into the back of their head because they're going for the ball. I think it's just because he's picked his face up at the last minute and he's almost scuffed down it. Yeah. I don't think that it was intentional from Xander.
There's no way it was intentional. It's just he's got a massive head and couldn't slouch low because his knees are probably arthritic. That's all.
Exactly. And he's got a 60-inch chest.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I have to ask you also what you made of Johnny May's incredible dive over the last defender to score in the corner. So should that have been disallowed?
Jamie, what do you think before I say?
I think it's a good try. I don't think it should have been disallowed. I think if he jumps and lands on his feet, it's different. Like, you can't do that. You can't jump over a tackling player like we see in the NFL when they're scrimmaging down 5 meters out and they just give it to the most springy guy in the team. He jumps over the top and gets over the line and scores. He's dived and landed hands first to place the ball in the corner. So I know it looks like a bit of a jump as well. And he's ended on his side, but the ball touches the ground first. He hasn't landed on his feet, so he's dived to score.
Jamie, put that, let's say, 5 meters from the post. And I'm taking a ball off 9 and I jump over a tackling player who is, you know what it's like around there? Players are so low, they're diving at knees. I guarantee you, if Italy got up there and got 5 meters out and done exactly what Johnny May did, just jumped over the top of the player like he did and scored, disallowed. Just because it was in the corner, they've allowed it. I don't think that's a try. No chance.
That's interesting. Yeah, the fact it's in the corner one-on-one with a player coming across, I completely agree with you there. If that was one-on-one, give the ball to Wilson 5 meters out on the charge and he just dives like straight over the team, it's a penalty. So yeah, you've definitely got a valid point there. I think the fact he lands on his hands, he's dived to evade the tackle. He's jumped to evade the tackle, yes, but he's also jumped to score, knowing full well that he has to get his legs in the air. I think there's potentially needs to be a bit of a rule change there. It might actually be a moment that encourages rule change in World Rugby. If it's in the corner and it's on the corner flag and you're diving to get your feet up away from the touchline.
Who have boys got this week? Dragons. Who have Dragons got this week?
Leinster home Friday.
Right. I want to see you. Right. 5 meter scrum. Just bashing it up at the 12 channel, but as you're coming in, just 2-footed plant and doof and flip. You know, like the NFL players flip. Yeah. But just land the ball on the floor and then go, well, hold on a minute. Johnny May did it
at the weekend.
I'm going to try it. We've got Ulster. Watch me get absolutely spindled over the top.
You haven't got the power in your legs, have you?
Mate, massive jump on me. Massive.
Do it at the start.
Johnny May's like a human spring, man.
Yeah.
The guy is so springy. No way you or I could do that.
Mate, I'm doing it. I'm getting 5 meters out and I'm jumping over all the players.
The most interesting, I think, topic of discussion from that game was this Crock roll and Jack Willis's ACL. I feel for the lad because I think he's a wonderful player. And I was tipping him for the Lions tour, a bit like your mate Hamish. I think they're both brilliant players. Jack Willis, fantastic player. Who's transferred his club form to England. I just felt for the bloke. But I've had this crock roll discussion quite a bit with fellow players. It's very difficult because how many crock rolls happen in a game where players aren't injured?
Yeah, loads.
Loads. So is it just the position you're in that makes you vulnerable and you can't get your studs out the deck? And are we having this discussion because of an outcome and because a lad got injured? Like, there's so many crock rolls happen during a game. The other thing, what I will say, is the fact you have to crock roll in the first place means you've arguably lost the ruck. You know, the player's got there before you. He's beating you into that space. So, and if you're there and you're standing, you've lost that ruck, haven't you? So I don't know, Ryan. You were involved with more of these in a game than me, certainly.
No, I completely agree. I just think that because of the injury that we're talking about, that happens so many times on the pitch. Worse things happen on the pitch as well when you're getting smacked from the side and a lot more force. That crock roll is a pretty controlled movement. Do you know what I mean? It's a grab and then trying to get that roll out. People get smacked in the knees and stuff and get away with injuries. It's just, I think it's one of these freak ones that I don't think we need to call to take that out. There was a thing in the brief asking if we practice that sort of stuff. Yeah, you do. You get stuck in these bloody judo gyms in pre-season. Yeah. And we went and did some stuff over in Ratho with some of the Great British champs, and bloody hell, they were throwing us about like Jerry Collins threw me about. And but yeah, you get taught this sort of stuff because it's a way of getting someone out of the ruck, and I think it's probably less dangerous than someone steaming in like Xander and getting smacked in the back of the neck at 90 miles an hour. You're safer getting crock rolled out than you are getting whacked in the back of the neck at the top of the spine. Yeah, I think they're more dangerous.
Yeah, look, it happens across a lot of clubs, Christina, and it's part of the game. But I agree. I agree with Ryan in the fact that, it's arguably safer than someone coming from a distance and propelling their weight into the back of your neck. Like, and how often do we see that in the game of rugby? That happens hundreds of times in a game throughout, the contact areas. So, yes, it's an unfortunate rugby incident for me.
Yeah, your heart does go out to Jack. Like he scored a try earlier on in the game, and then to have it end so horrifically, and even the fact that you had all the broadcasters, they wouldn't show the replay, because like I ended up finding it on Twitter, and it was horrific in the screams and everything. Like he was in an awful lot of pain.
I didn't actually see it happen. But I heard about it, and but yeah, you get these all the time. But players get this sort of stuff. My heart goes out to poor old Dan Lydiate, man. Like 2.5 years out, and he was getting dogs abuse. Like people saying he's not good enough to be back in there. And then what was he like? 15 minutes in? What
I will say about Dan, though, look, if I was him, I'd be prouder of that achievement of getting back into the squad after 2.5 years out than anything he'd achieved in his career prior. I think that's an amazing achievement on his behalf to be out that long, to get back in. And I know fate had it that he would only last 15 minutes, and injury, curtailed his comeback. But like, I was massively proud of him. And as you rightly said, Ron, like pretty devastating for him, poor bloke. Whether we see him in a Welsh jersey again remains to be seen. But, to even do it for a quarter of an hour, I was massively proud of him. And he can be hugely proud of that as well.
Too right.
Right. I think we'll move on to our social 15. So we're back recruiting this week for our social 15, where we're looking to fill out the ultimate starting 15 made up of players who just love to cut loose on tour. And actually, speaking of scrum halves, that's who we're looking to fill this week. So guys, who gets the nomination and why? Do you both have someone?
I'm going Danny Kerr. Played with Danny 3 years at Quins, good mates. Cheeky chappy, stereotypical 9. Gobby little small man syndrome, but hub of the party, proper funny bloke on nights out, loves winding people up, and top guy to have on tour. Been on holiday with him to Ibiza a few years back with a few
stories.
You're gonna have to give us the story here.
Stories, it's difficult stories. Stories are difficult.
Stories are just memories, Jamie. You just have to share them with
memories. I know. But yeah, Danny Kerr for me, in at 9, social 15.
Well, I'm not going to accept that because you didn't actually give me a story as to why he's so loose and he's so fun on tour. You know these rules. We've been doing it for long enough. You're sweating here now.
No, Ryan, let's go to you, mate. Give me some time.
My one is you've got to have an Aussie in there. You have to have an Australian there because they are just on the piss. They're different types of people, aren't they? The Aussies. So mine, we had a guy nicknamed Pickles, Nick Frisbee, who's played for Australia and he played for us at Glasgow Warriors. Very funny bloke and one of the loosest men on the piss that I've ever come across. He's pretty special. I can't tell much of the stories of us on a night out with him. He's that loose. He's called Teen Wolf as well. I don't know how many people call him Teen Wolf, but he's a very hairy man who likes to get naked on a night out. But yeah, a man that drinks 4x gold like it's going out of fashion.
What's 4x gold?
4x gold. It's like Tennant Super. It's like
I love the beverage 4x gold.
Like the Australian version of Tennant Super. But he is. I'm trying to think of what I could tell you on a night out about him. I think his party trick, he was getting told that his defence wasn't good enough by the coaches. And, everyone finds out it was Dave Rennie at the time saying you need to, low chop and be better. So on a night out, he's renowned for pushing everyone out the way in the middle of a bar. And he doesn't look like he's not a rugby build. He's quite a small bloke. And he'll just get random members of the public. Mate, run at me, hard as you can. I'm going to chop you. And he'll get people to run the full length of the bar. So it starts off with obviously teammates. So you get like your Chris Fazaro running full pelt down this bar, like 15-meter run up, bowling him as hard as he can. And Pickles is just getting laid out on the floor, left, right, and centre. And then he's getting normal members of the public. Anyone want to go? Come on.
For a confidence booster then.
Yeah, I'm going to smash you. And even they were coming in and absolutely bowl him, roll him out on the floor. He's a funny man. He was only here for a couple of years, but I've got some terrible stories to tell about him, but I don't want to get in trouble. So I'll keep them for another time.
Why question now? Just because Ryan, I think you guys have mentioned a few times about men getting naked on nights out. What is it about this? Like, why do rugby players feel the need to get naked on nights out after having consumed a lot of alcohol?
I'm not sure. Just to feel free. We were born naked.
To feel free.
We were born naked, Christina. I'm sure women do it as well.
Get naked on nights out?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they do now. I can't say they. No. I know. Shocker. I can't say no. That women tend.
You got a night out in Cardiff?
No, that is true.
Or Swansea. What's it? Wine Street.
Yeah, Wine Street, Swansea. Ryan, you know it well.
Bloody hell. Yeah, that's a dangerous place. But no, I just think it's quite a normal thing for men to do, isn't it?
Well, that's it from us. Thanks to Ryan Wilson and Jamie Roberts, and thanks to you for listening. More offloading next week. Make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you get it as soon as it's released. Leave us a rating and review if you can, and don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well. Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.